So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to ask you to give us more than one chance. Okay, so I'm hoping you'll come back next time. This is a program that I said to somebody just a minute ago, and it fits repeating. It's a train that's left the station, right? It left the station about 5 months ago. And then every once in a while it stops and picks up people, but we got to orient you in picking you up. So and I'll work at that. We'll do our best. Thank you for joining us. We're always glad to have you. And I'll ask you to give us a little time to orient you. Okay, you good? So I'm kind of in a daze this morning, and I'm going to be apologizing all day. I hate doing that, but I got to tell you, we had a wonderful weekend with our vestry staff retreat, the Friday and Saturday, which takes a lot of energy. And it's also, if you don't know, today's my birthday, and so yesterday, thank you. So yes, last night, knowing I wasn't signed up to do much this morning, I was just doing this class, we stayed up late celebrating my birthday. And so, and I got to bed a little bit late, and whenever you have a celebration, you get to sleep a little bit later after that. I crawled out of bed this morning and my phone rang, and Reverend Jennifer, who's assigned to preach, is sick. And so, and I have house guests, Tom and Kit Shank, I'll talk to you more about them later, and it's my job to fix breakfast. And so I'm still saying now, where am I and what day is it? And the gospel text for this morning is affectionately known as the Bad Beatitudes. It's a hard text to come up with a sermon out of your hip pocket. So, but we're making it work, and it's all good, right? I'm with friends. Say, yeah, Jimmy, you're with friends. Thank you very much. Okay, it's all good. It's all good. So, coming back to our listening initiative, I'd like to. Last week, we had been offered 2 articles to spend some time with. One of them was what would be typically called a more conservative perspective on the topic of systemic racism. And the other one was what would be typically called a more progressive perspective on the topic of systemic racism. And all of our time in the listening initiative was intended to sort of keep building up towards the time we would start to get to this kind of a engagement and conversation. And we've ever since Christmas, we've had fits and starts, and it's been a little challenging to stay on track and remember where we are and what we're doing, and the whole program has really been a very special time for me as I'm watching us all engage a kind of a new way of being in conversation and a new way of being in relationship and learning a new perspective, not just the skills that we're learning, but a new perspective from which to practice the skills. And if you've ever been a teacher, or if you've ever led organizational change, not just personal change, individual change, but organizational change, or you've been in any kind of a teaching situation when you're trying to teach profound new truths, then you're aware that it takes you got to hear it again and again and again and again. It's really challenging. And I was talking with my pal Tom. Go ahead and stand. So Tom, this is Tom Shank, and Kit, I don't want to embarrass you, but would you stand too? This is Tom's lovely wife, Kit. Thank you very much. Thank you. So welcome. So Tom is an organizational development coach. Is that what you'd say? Okay. And working with organizations for 42 years. And we launched the Listening Initiative at St. Barnabas about 4 years ago, and Tom came and he and I did workshops together, and he's been coaching me all along. So back to what's relevant. So I was talking with Tom yesterday, and he leads our vestry staff retreat, and he was telling me a story about, by the way, the room over here is open. Come on in all the way. If you come all the way over, you'll help us. Thank you. And Tom was telling me stories about his career, and he said, one of my very first clients, I've been working with him about how to see leadership and organizations, and working with him for years and years and years. And finally, 8 years in, I'm talking with him, the same conversation we've had for 8 years, and he looks at me and says, "Oh my God, I get it." It only took 8 years. Now I understand. Now I get it. And so just watching how that works. So last week, when we began our response to these two articles, I watched us go backwards in some of the conversations I watched. I watched how hard it was. And what I want us all to hear is that's really good news. As I watched us go backwards, I watched us forget what we were doing. I watched us get hooked. Not all the conversations, but some. I watched us get hooked. I watched us struggle. I want all of us to hear that's great news, because it's the opportunity to learn. It's the opportunity to say, there I am again. I'm not listening at all. I can't wait for them to finish so I can tell them how stupid they are. I can't wait for them to finish it. I can say to them, you have no idea what you're saying. You don't know where that thinking is coming from. Let me get it right for you. And by the way, I'm not supposed to do that. So I do it. I go underground. I do it by asking leading questions. They're not real questions. They're leading questions. They're questions that want to get you to another place. So it's a question that sounds like this. So okay, but do you realize that that's what you're thinking? Or is that what you really mean? So that means you want to do this. I don't say, it's not a question that says, thank you, could you tell me more? I'd love to hear more about that. I'd love to understand more about why that's meaningful to you. Could you please say more? I watched us forget that. Again, it's good news. It means we have an opportunity to learn and to grow. So today, this week, I sent us just one article to look at, but it's long. I know it was a long article. I hope you had a chance to look at it. It is an article that is a more progressive perspective on systemic racism. And next week, I'm going to give us a more conservative, perspective on systemic racism. And now what I want us all to hear is that the goal is not for us to solve anything about systemic racism. Please hear me again. The goal is not for us to solve anything about systemic racism or anything else. The goal is not for us to come to an agreement about any of it. The goal is not for us to agree. The goal is not for us to solve. You with me? Okay. The goal is that the person who's talking would feel profoundly heard. That is the only goal. That I would be with this person. By the way, now, could you all come over here to this side of the room for me? Thank you very much. Thank you. We're all going to break up into groups of 3 anyway. So if you fill the room over here, it'd be really helpful. And then the real goal is, as I'm listening, what I'm discovering are the things in me that are in the way from me profoundly hearing this person. The real work is me. The real work is I'm emotionally hooked. I'm attached to my opinion. I have an agenda. I'm ready to advocate from my point of view. And as long as that's going on, it's not possible for me to hear someone. And so the real goal is for me to see what's in me that's in the way for me helping this other person feel profoundly heard. Or to quote Thich Nhat Hanh, to empty their heart. Don't you love that? I love that. You listen with only one purpose, to help the person empty their heart. And so the goal is what's in me. So what happens is this interaction becomes a mirror. It's an opportunity for me to see what's in me that prevents me from really listening to this person. And then this program we're in has given us the skills. It's so simple. Ask a question, ask a real question, not a leading question. It's just that simple. Ask a question, mirror what you've heard them say, paraphrase back to them what you've heard them say. If you're struggling, do your best to sort of prime them to say more. All those skills we learned. The foundational perspective is to suspend my thinking. Let go of what I already think or think I know. Let it all go. Set it aside for just a moment, and so that nothing is happening but me being present to this person. And then, again, our formula, especially when this person is, by the way, they only need to get 2 or 3 sentences out and I know where they are, right? And so, come on. Thank you. Or you think you do, exactly. They're likely to be this basic perspective. Yes, thank you, Jimmy. I think I do, yes. Can you make faces? I love it. Well, you're doing it right now. I love it. Thank you. Don't you love it? That's wonderful. So then I think maybe they have a point of view that's different from mine. Can I practice our formula? Uncommon initiative to walk towards them. So it's a metaphor. I'm already sitting with them, to lean into hearing them when I think they're different from me. Remarkable curiosity. Can I be curious? Please, I really want to understand. And by the way, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. And during this practice, have you discovered the gift of being curious? Once you start to be curious, you realize, oh my gosh, there's so much I can learn. I can learn about, and how interesting people are, how interesting their lives are. Once I suspend all my baloney, how much fun it is to be curious about another person in their life, right? Yes, I know we have experienced this. And then the courage, profound courage to stay in that conversation, to stay leaning in, to stay being curious, to suspend all my thinking, help them empty their heart, help them feel profoundly heard. Now, the commitment to doing that, again, leads to the real goal, turns me into a peacemaker. That's the real goal, is if I'm willing to look in the mirror that this conversation has offered to me, see what's in me that keeps me from profoundly hearing this person. By the way, as they say it feels to them, that they feel profoundly heard, help them empty their heart. If I commit to that journey, I will become a peacemaker. It's really that simple. It's not simplistic, but it's that simple. It's that simple. And then I think it's the 18th century Russian monk who said, come to peace and 1,000 around you will be saved. Help that person feel profoundly heard. Help that person empty their heart, and you will save the world. Does that make sense? One more thing. At the heart of all of that is profound faith. Profound faith that God is at work. Then when that person feels what we're really saying, loved, the experience of love begins the healing process and carries on the healing process, heals the pain of the world, lets us recognize our unity, that we are one, and that's what heals the world. And whatever the problems are, they just become so much less once we're in that space. And together, we find creative new ways to love and serve the world, heal the world, and live together. Make sense? Okay. That's a little longer pre-mumble than I imagined, and no charge for the sermon. Mary. Do we have another microphone? Could you pass that to me? Oh, Mary, no, we need you. We want to hear you. We want the recording to hear you and our Zoom friends to hear you.
Well, I'm quoting a Buddhist monk, and I don't know his name, but he says, sentient beings just need to calm down. And I just think that's wonderful.
That's perfect.
In everything we're doing, just calm down, dial it down.
Thank you, Mary. I love it. I love it. Okay. So we actually do need to look at one thing on, I'm afraid we don't have enough copies. We might have to share them. So on your tables should be a page debrief for exercise number 2. And we had more people come than I expected, so I don't think there's one for everybody, but you can share them. Okay, good. You can share them. Are there any at that table back there? Okay. You need that one and another one. There's another page called debrief for exercise number 2. That's the wrong one. We want debrief for exercise 2. Here's some. Good, 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 good. Okay, here we go. Okay. Do you have any back there, Steve? Okay. All right, you guys share that. So I'm speaking now from memory. Oh, those are the listening hints. Yeah. Okay. I'm speaking now from memory. I don't have a sheet in front of me. But what I want us to do, here's another one. Okay, thank you. Well, no, that's okay. I want you to have it. So, yeah. Okay. Can everybody have one? You're looking at one in front of you or next to you. Everybody's got a way to look at it. Anybody not have that? Okay, here you go. Here's for you this side of the table then. Okay. Okay. I just want you to have a chance to look at it a little bit and familiarize yourself with it. So we're going to do a listening exercise and then we'll debrief it. And the debrief is really valuable. I just want to remind you of what the debrief is. And this debrief was designed for a slightly different exercise, but it works for the one we're going to do. It's the basic principles of a debrief that I want you to see. Okay, you good? So in today's exercise, I'd like us to break into groups of 3. And if you're a new person, you will be the observer. For the groups of 3, we'll have one person giving a response to the article that I emailed you. Then we'll have one person who's listening to that person give the response. And then we'll have one person observing it. And if you're new or relatively new, I'd like you to put yourself in the role of the observer. And the debrief helps you understand what your role is as observing. So let me see that page, please. Thank you. So I'm just going to help us with this. So as the observer, here's what you do. What did you notice? Did the storyteller, so that means the person sharing their response to the article, did the storyteller seem comfortable or uncomfortable? Y'all don't hear this as helpful, what I'm about to say. The storyteller's comfort level does lie within the storyteller, but it also lies within the listener. the listener's posture, the listener's tone of voice, the listener's words help the person talking be comfortable. And we're talking about a challenging topic, systemic racism. So as the person starts, not just words, but tones, posture, gesture, facial expression of the listener helps the person talking be more comfortable and therefore feel safe, and therefore be able to empty their heart, and therefore feel profoundly heard. Make sense? So that's what you're watching for as an observer. Just watch how that's happening. By the way, please don't anybody, that's why I started this by saying, don't get tense over this. Don't tense up on it. Let it all be a learning opportunity. Let it all be a learning opportunity. So, I love what Jim Hatfield said. Can we make facial expressions? So the person's talking and the listener's going, how comfortable do you think that feels? Or the listener's going, thank you. Thank you. Could you say more? Interesting. I love that. Could you tell me more? See the difference? Okay. All right. And that's the observer's role, is just watching for that, watching what happens. Did the listener help the storyteller tell their story? If they did, how? That's what the observer is doing. How did that happen? Did the listener ask leading questions rather than open questions? So as an observer, you're watching for that. Did the listener use pauses well? Remember the power of the pause. So somebody says something and they pause. So the storyteller has a pause. The listener does too. Just pause. Facial expression gives them room. They don't feel anxious. They have a moment. And there's a pause. It could be a long pause. And there could be a from the listener. Just any gentle, subtle expression that makes it safe for the storyteller to talk about something that's potentially a difficult topic. Then, also for the observer, what occurred within you with regard to your thoughts, feelings, emotions, passions, and assumptions? So as you're observing what's happening in you, and by the way, take notes. Take notes. Take notes as you're watching all this go on. You're noticing what's happening in the storyteller. You're noticing what's happening in the listener. You're noticing what's happening in yourself. As the observer, you really have a spectacular learning opportunity to pay attention to what's going on in yourself as you're watching this all happen. Were you present to yourself? Did you notice resistance in yourself to what you were hearing? What does this tell you about yourself? So again, we're responding to this article that was given to us. I gave it 2 weeks ago and then this week as well. It's dadgummit, I don't have it in my memory. I've got it right here. Say what? Yes, that's the title of the book. The article is A White Lens on Dismantling Racism. Very good. Thank you very much. So that's the article. And we'll have one person responding to the article, one person listening, and one person observing. After about 7 minutes or so, I'll stop us, and then then invite you to do a debrief of it, to do the debrief. Then we'll do a plenary debrief of it. We'll all hear from one another. Okay, you good? Anyway, my program is that you never finish. You understand that? I know it feels rude. I know you want to finish, and my goal is that gets you to come back next time. So the deal is we never finish. So that's intentional. Big favor to ask, if you are not receiving the emails of this program, we're doing everything we can to collect your emails and make sure we send stuff to you. You should get an email from me every week,
they're just
and if
gonna
you're
kick
not
right
getting
back
them,
in
if
as soon
you'll
as that
call
happens.
Katie in the office, emails, and it's crucial because we're giving you materials to prepare for each week. So please let us know if you're not getting our emails. So I mentioned to you earlier, my really good friend and listening coach, Tom Shank, is here. And so I've asked Tom to come and so he had the morning with us and asked Tom to come and sprinkle a little fairy dust on us. You okay with that? So Tom, please. Let me just say, we're gonna finish at 3 minutes after 10. That gives you plenty of time to get to church. I have to suit up for church, so we can do this, all right? 3 minutes after 10, we'll finish.
I'm finishing it.
Yes, sir.
I'm ending it. Okay. Hello. Oh boy, oh boy. You know, so I have a question or two. Has anybody gone into the world, the real world of your relationships, important relationships, and taken on a listening posture? Have you given it a try in the real world? So that's good news. If we had more time, I would ask what your experience was. Someplace between awkward and highly competent, correct? How about more towards awkward? Anybody? Yes, more towards awkward or more towards highly competent? How about highly competent? Oh, good. Okay, so yes, thank you. If you're a husband, you do a lot of it. That's right. I like that. Thank you, Jim. Yeah. So, if we are not sure, hi, Pat. Good to see you. Wish we were fishing. If we are not curious, what are we? Say it again. Bored. Wow. What else? If we're not curious, what are we? Judgmental. Okay, we're not living in the present. We're speaking in the mud. I love that. What? Self-centered. Okay. All right. Has anybody had the endorphin that comes, that positive feeling, that what's that? No, it's not adrenaline. No, I've lost it. Huh? Serotonin that comes with being curious. Have you had a rush of that? Have you got it? Oh my Lord. So you're doing great work. That's good. So may I give you a couple of things to practice. And one, which is you can do it verbally or you can do it non-verbally. I'd like you to do it verbally with me right now, just for fun. But in the world, you can do it non-verbally. It's called the last three words. What's really cool about this is that if you are able to repeat my last three words as I'm speaking, then you have to be in the present. We have to be conscious, and we certainly can't be thinking about anything else. Is that accurate? All right, so you can do it in the world. Let's do it on the patio after church today. So here we go. The Super Bowl. You know, the Rams are the better team, and the Bengals are the team of destiny. Team of destiny. Thank you very much. Stafford, the Los Angeles Lambs, felt slightly judgmental. I don't know, but it's okay. So Stafford just has to not lose the game. Not lose the game. Get the idea? Okay, so in listening, it is the first thing that you do. You repeat the last thing someone says. Just the last three words. And what we want, thank you very much. And what we want to do, you could go into the world and do it non-verbally also. Do it with your adult children or your children at large. Just in your mind, and you will be present. It's also grace, because within that, there's a pause. Okay, WAIT, have you introduced that? WAIT, okay. It's capital letters, wait. Why am I talking? Anybody here a serial advocator? Advocate versus inquire. Inquire is listening curious. Advocate is advocate for something. Anybody here really good at advocating? Come on. Good at it, right? Yeah. It's an occasional soapbox. Okay. I'm okay with advocators. However, what we want to learn is to be in the present, be conscious, and ask ourselves, what is our goal? In other words, why am I talking? And that brings us present. So as you are speaking, so last night, Betsy and I got into a wonderful non-listening conversation, and we were both trying to save the world. And we had no intention of listening to each other. There was too much celebration for which Jim participated. And as I'm talking to her and I am advocating, I asked myself the question, what is my goal? It was not to have influence. I wasn't trying to persuade. I had been bottled up for a while because willpower and self-discipline and all of that is a limited resource. And no matter who you are, you need a padded cell. So I used Betsy as my padded cell. I just needed to get it off my chest. Anybody ever been there? So please, number 2, after the last 3 words, find those padded cells. Because self-discipline and willpower are limited resources. It's like going on a fishing trip, Pat. It's just men, we just gotta fish. Can I say that? Okay. We just gotta get it off our chest. Anybody been there? Please find the padded cell. Otherwise, we will not ever be able to be terrific listeners. Minute and a half to go. Okay, for you advocators, your listeners, here's the big one. Approach the world and find out if you're making it easy on the listener. It's a great question to ask yourself as you're advocating, as you're talking, as you're speaking. Are you making it easy on the listener? We have one company, one organization that I work in, where it's part of their corporate language. And after every meeting that someone has spoken, they say, and they debrief it around, did I make it easy on you? Easy on the listener. Please make it a goal. And if you continually repeat yourself, because you're coming from a place of distress, you're not making it easy on the listener. Last comment. The power of the pause. The power of the pause. Why? Why pause? Please answer. Okay, give a chance for someone to respond. Jim's language would be allow them to catch themselves, catch up, collect themselves. Mine would be neurologically, the brain needs time to catch up. So if I open up a subject, let's talk about the Super Bowl, I have to pause because your brain now has to go to that part of your brain, which is talking about the Super Bowl. And that is grace. If you're a serial advocator, please come to this corner and we'll have a conversation. Yes, sir. Yeah, well, the brain is in the heart. Jim's going to do something on that. He's going to on a Saturday. The brain is in the heart. That's wonderful, Jim. It goes exactly to what we were talking about yesterday, and it's now 3 minutes after. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tommy. Peace. See you next week.
Friends, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.